We are live. Jason Henderson, thank you very much for carving time out. I know that you're busy to the sense that you were busy, right? Obviously, maybe busier pre-transaction as a business owner with his hands in the soil on a day in and day out basis. But now you're on the other side of the transaction. And I know we're going to want to talk about what post-transaction life looks like. We're going to want to talk about what the transaction looked like and the emotional ride that you were on during that. And I think that's important because a lot of people are they always ask that question. I'm sure you've gotten calls, right?
Oh, yeah.
Hey, this is what I'm thinking. I'm not sure. This is what I feel. And, you're incredibly level-headed, for what you've put together in the time period that you put it together over is pretty damn incredible. And there's not a lot of people that have the skyrocketing success that you had over a 5-year, 3-month period. So we're going to get into all that fun stuff, but let's lay a little bit of foundation. Do me a favor, just give me an idea. Give me the history. How did you get into the trades? What did it look like? Talk about like the first couple days. And obviously, you and I have ripped our hair out so that we can leave those jokes out of that for now. And we'll kind of.
You want me to go all the way back to how I got in the trade initially?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I got into the trade in 2003.
Okay.
I responded to an ad in the Review Journal, which is the newspaper out here. So it's a long time ago when they had newspapers for a no experience necessary duct cleaner. And so I answered that ad. I had been in like the food and beverage industry, working in restaurants and wanted a career and doing something different. So started off as a duct cleaner and just started to work my way through the industry. Went from being a straight commission duct cleaner to an installer, to a maintenance technician, to eventually a technician. And then just worked as a technician for about 14 years. And then my wife and I started our business from scratch August 1st, 2017. So August 1st, 2017, it was just my wife and I, one truck. So I was the technician and installer. And, thought that some of that field experience would translate into business ownership. And I quickly realized that it didn't translate at all. Everything that I knew was about sort of doing the work, but I didn't necessarily know how to run an effective business. And so that was one thing that we had going for us, is we just knew that we didn't know a lot. As soon as we were faced with real challenges, we were going to struggle. So from there, I ended up attending an event called Service World in Las Vegas. So we started August 2017 and Service World was September 2017. And I ended up meeting the people with Service Nation Alliance and listened to David Heimer, who was with Service Nation Alliance. He was giving a speech on, why did you start a business and all of the, sort of challenges that all business owners are faced with. And I related to everything he said. I said, okay, well, I started the business with my wife and I started with just our life savings. So we had less than $100,000 saved up, and joining Service Nation Alliance was an investment, which took quite a bit of the money that I had, earmarked to run this business, but I knew that we needed it. And so we joined. From there, I was introduced to a lot of different concepts that I wasn't aware of, so of course, that put us on a good path. But what we also found out was one of the skills that we had that we didn't realize that we had was the ability to take concepts and just integrate them right away, implement them right away. We had a strong follow through game, a real sense of urgency. We don't ever wait until tomorrow to get done what we can get done today. And we're not looking at, it takes a whole year to develop this concept. We want to develop it within a couple of days. So of course, our business started growing, and I do owe a lot of that to S&A just because, they at least introduced us to those concepts. But we took those concepts and our business started to grow. 2018 was our first full year. And by the end of 2018, we probably had about 20 people working here. And every year we continued to grow. So I did a model on it the other day, and I think like our first full year we grew about 50%, and then we grew by about 70%, then 80%, then 60%. And so obviously at the 5-year, 3-month mark, we had a transaction, where we actually partnered with private equity. And so we partnered with Turnpoint. And I guess to backtrack a little bit, I reached out to you in spring of 2021.
Right. We got introduced, if I'm not mistaken, right, from some of your mentors through Service Nation, if if I remember correctly. Right.
Yeah. So
yeah, we started those conversations right probably a year prior to you doing anything. Sure.
Yeah. So I attended all the SNA breakouts and stuff like that, and I saw you and Fred in a breakout, and I thought, wow, and it was probably around 2018, 2019. And I thought, wow, okay, so that's a new concept. And I guess that's probably not going to be for me because I'm just going to run this family business forever. That's kind of what I thought. I didn't even understand the concept, and that's the great thing about, hearing a concept, learning about that concept, and then you just really kind of take it because it makes sense. So a friend of mine, Lou Habaika, he sold his business in spring of 2021. And I remember seeing his Facebook post, and I called up Lou. He's a friend of mine.
Right.
And I just said, hey, I want to learn about this. Yeah, he's amazing, right? I just want to learn about this. And, he explained, what his thoughts were and why he actually did it. And he said, everyone knows what their house is worth, but very few people actually know what their business is worth. I thought, okay, well, that's a good concept. And I said, okay, let me find out about that. So I hung up on him, and I literally called you 2 seconds later, just because that's how I always do everything, just right away.
Right.
Called you up and kind of told you what I wanted. And you said, okay, well, we could put together a conservative valuation just based on some numbers, if you want to just throw some numbers. And so I did. And you ended up giving me a number that I thought, well, okay, I'd probably just continue on. And you said, well, let's just go through the whole process. And I'm really into learning. So I said, yeah, let's do it. And so we went through getting you all of our information, more detailed information. And then, eventually you put together a packet for us. The thing that I didn't know back then that I actually understand now that we went through the transaction is that packet was probably one of the most important things that we could have done going into something like this. For one, it allowed you guys to, really assess what we could do a little bit better, what things we were doing well, what our personality and culture was of our company. And I know that you've helped a lot of other people do the same. In our case, I think that we were pretty well run, a pretty efficient company, but we still didn't understand sort of the psychology behind actually going through a transaction. Like, you start this company from scratch and you work so hard on trying to get things, done the way they should be done. And there's a lot of sweat equity that goes into it. Everybody's fighting hard, all the management team, which, we still have a team that's right around 50. But you guys really sort of helped guide us on, how to think about things.
Sure. You actually talked about two things here, and I want to back up for one, and we'll jump to the other one. And by the way, I think what makes you so unique is the first thing that I'm going to talk about that you said, which is like, hey, I have to get something done. I stop and I go get it done. So when you talked about starting with Service Nation and Service Roundtable initially and said, hey, they gave me these concepts, I went right back and implemented them. At that point in time, your business was not so big where you had to do this whole overhaul and get everybody rebought back in on what needs to happen moving forward. Basically, it's, hey, here's our handful of people. This is now how we do things. And and that's it. Again, I'm at all these events and I hear what the speakers say, and there's just so much good information. And obviously, everybody takes out of these what they take out of it. The big question is, how many people go back to their homes or to their offices and walk in the next day and say, hey, here's what we're doing, here's what we're implementing. Listen, change is scary. And the bigger you get with some success, the scarier it is. So, kudos to you for grabbing your stuff and saying, okay, we're going to go ahead and make that happen. Yeah. That which is an incredible characteristic. And I do remember this over obviously the number of years that we've been doing some stuff together, that when something was needed, it wasn't even a question. We knew we were going to get it just like that. And by the way, when you go through a transaction and you're dealing with your potential buyer on the other end, when they ask questions of you and you're able to almost snap your fingers and get them the information, it characterizes your business differently. hey,
Yeah.
this guy's got his finger on really what's going on with the business. The other thing you want to talk about, and then I'm going to move back one more thing that I want to ask you about. You talk about trust, right? We had a relationship. You knew the people we had done deals with. You trusted what we were talking about. And I remember in our conversations, I remember when we first talked about that initial valuation, which we do all the time, by the way. By the way, most people want to hear that this number's pie out of pie in the sky. It's conservative for a reason. We don't know till we go to market the number of buyers, what the competition for the asset's going to look like. And it's based on obviously a whole lot of things. But I remember when you got your stuff over, we extended out, we went past the time because you were growing, you wanted to capture in some of that growth. And you started making adjustments based upon where the numbers were on a monthly basis that we were feeding back to you, right? You would get on a phone. Were you with Leona or Darcy? I don't remember off the top of my head.
Leona.
Right. You were having some pretty in-depth conversations with her revolving around your financials and things that you could push or pull to make yourself more efficient. So you took the time to say, hey, I'm going to do this somewhere down the road. The number has to be right. And all of it's great. I'm hoping that everybody listening is hearing, what they, you took action, you trusted. You not only trusted in us, but to get to where you wanted to go with the growth, you got to trust your people too. Right?
Yeah.
So you have managers and management people that you're laying this information out to, and you're hoping as they lay it out to the people that work beneath them, that nothing's going to get lost in the translation. You did that effectively. That's obviously one of the key reasons why you had the growth that you did. You had the management team around you that trusted enough in you, believed enough in you. And when you said, hey, you may not understand where we're going, but here's the direction we're going in, just have some faith. You didn't get a whole lot of pushback ever, did you?
No, I've never had any pushback from my team. I have an amazing team here. So Robert and Dan are the internal and outside operations directors. And they pretty much run the company, so basically they take half the company each, and then they have some managers below them. But they're very effective. And, the crazy thing though, is prior to becoming managers here or directors here, actually, they had never been in management anywhere. And, just through a lot of training, a lot of communication, a lot of understanding, just a lot of conversations about what kind of company we wanted to be, what kind of team we wanted to be, what we wanted our outcomes to be, we were able to actually hit those. Knowing how to do those, was the training, communicating what the vision really was to kind of allow them to follow, what they needed to follow. And ultimately, I have literally no complaints about any of the management team here or any of the technicians, the rest of the team.
It's, listen, when you take a look at the differing business models, right? One is you want to run your business so that you could start to back away from it, right? You're creating people in place for your management team so you can almost work yourself out of a job, which is in a sense what you did. The only way you could be able to do that is to trust and empower the people that are handling everything for you, right? You're inspecting what you expect. You give them enough, leash to be able to make these things happen. That while it takes time, once it's established, one of the questions that I ask, right, in any one of the presentations, what have you, that I do at the different events is, you want to get an idea of what type of business, how well you're running your business, or how well you trust your team. How long can you go away for, right? Is it 1 week and everything stays the same or moves in the direction you want it to do? 2 weeks, a month? You were almost unlimited. You could go away pretty much whenever you wanted with the understanding that your guys were going to have their stuff together and nothing was going to change in the direction you were heading in.
Yeah. That's
the most successful businesses. Now, I'm not saying, by the way, that some of these businesses that aren't personality driven are not, but my gosh, but listen, some people use this is their, this is what they do this is their life, right? Their life, this is what they do. They love going in, they want to be there all day. And some people put together a business because they want to use this to go enjoy other things. There's no right or wrong with either of it. You were incredibly successful in building out your management team and trusting and empowering them to get to where you wanted to go. I want to move one step back with something you said in the beginning. There was a day, you said you and your wife started off, and I appreciate how humble you were in talking about this, but dude, you left what you were doing for 13 plus years and said, okay, let's go ahead and do this. There had to be something that went on that said, hey, you know what? Enough is enough. Tomorrow's going to be a different day. Honey, are you all in with me? Because if you don't have listen, spousal support, and I've heard this, by the way, this is no different. Jordan Beebe, same thing with Brittany. Ishmael with his wife, he had been bounced around, and eventually his wife said, "Are you going to keep bouncing around? Are you going to do this on your own?" There was something with respect to Travis and Tyler doing this type of stuff. I mean, there is a lot of it where there's this breaking point where, what do they call it? A watershed moment where you're like, okay, we're going after it. Tell me about yours.
Well, I worked for the same place for probably about 12 years, 13 years, worked at a couple places, but ended up landing at one place, and they didn't do any marketing. They didn't do any training. They didn't do any development. I had never been to a sales training class, but, I'm considered to be, which I'm not anymore, but I'm considered to be a really good salesperson,
Right.
Never did any sales training, never did any technical training, no management training. I had the title of being a manager just because the person didn't want to lose me,
Right.
so they gave me a title so that way I would feel sort of cool about things and just kind of continue on. But also there were no benefits. There was nothing, and it just didn't seem like the right kind of place to work, long term, even though I've been there for all that time. I'm a very loyal person. I care about people. I want to see people succeed. I want to be part of their success. I want to help them.
Sure.
And we just realized that, okay, the only way that we could really affect people and really help team members, become successful is by starting our own business. So, and then of course we had the, thought that we would become successful and do great things for ourselves as well. Nowhere near as successful as we ended up becoming, just by definition, not saying that we're ultra successful, but just by definition, we did become very successful. But we became successful really because our intention was to have a strong business that was very organized, that cared about people, that was committed to developing people, training, making sure people were financially successful, great benefits. We have amazing benefits here. Like, for instance, we even have like paternity leave. So I have 4 kids. Every time one of my kids was born, I would basically take off a half a day.
Right.
And then get right back to work.
Yep.
A day and get right back to work. Well, my guys here, because of course there are a lot of males in the HVAC and plumbing industry, right? And there's going to be probably 80% of all of the employees are men, and men have kids just like women have kids, but they don't get a chance to be around their kids or be around to help their spouse or their girlfriend, and so we kind of force that. We pay them, take a couple weeks off here, you're paid a couple weeks off. We want that to happen. We don't have on call. We don't have people working 7 days straight. They work 5 days, they're off 2 days, right? And we were inspired by a friend of mine. We even have people go out and dedicate a day every month to a charity of their choice. They're paid for that. You find a cause or a charity or something that you want to help on, and go out there and help, 1 day a month, and you're paid for it. So we want to be able to improve people's lives because, just like you're super busy, I'm super busy. If we're working, we're not going to go help a charity. We work all day. We want to go home and kind of do whatever hobbies we're into or just keep ourselves sane, right? Well, this way you could actually take a day off from work, still get paid the same amount, and actually help something that you want to help, so that's what we did.
So I think where that all gets interesting is, there's that saying, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care, right? You prove that out with your people. And again, if I'm not mistaken, and looking through, remember, I'm being involved in the transaction, you didn't have really much turnover. When you treat your people, when it's not a transaction and you're developing a relationship, and you've poured into them and their lives are better because of it, and they feel comfortable, and they know if God forbid something happens, they're protected, you've got their back, whatever it winds up being, where are they going?
Yeah, the first
and given the opportunity to earn an extraordinary income, right? There's no cap in your place. You want to keep making stuff happen. You're amazing. You're going to get paid amazingly. And yeah, it's good stuff. It's impressive.
Yeah, as a business, we look at everything, all of the different metrics and KPIs that all the other businesses look at. But in the very beginning, the first thing that we'd look at is everyone being paid well?
Right.
I'd look at payroll, not because, oh gosh, I'm paying all this money,
Right.
but okay, good, good. I'm glad he got paid that. I'm glad he got paid. Okay, good. Everybody got paid really well. Company must be doing well.
Right.
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 And it's not a matter of, let me do this cool concept of, I'm going to care about people so they care about us. We actually just sincerely care about people. We want people to win and succeed.
Sure. And I know that from all the conversations that you and I
Sure.
have had, how you, again, with your family and your in-laws and how everybody got taken care of, and you made it, you in your transaction, at least in the post transaction, made it a family affair, a team event. You succeeded, your people succeeded, your family succeeded, which is, and again, not that I'm saying a lot of people don't, that doesn't work that way, but I just know from knowing you, I remember how important that was for you getting those things done. And obviously we were able to accomplish that. So to that end, again, congratulations. And, we obviously got to see what went on with the growth, which was insane. I think the event, I want to say maybe it was 2018 at the Vegas event for Service Roundtable, right? Their Service World Expo. Cause I remember I had a speaking piece there, which was, that was a hell of an event. It was great. So I want to pivot with you for a second. A lot of questions that I get asked, and you and I were discussing this earlier before we hopped on. Okay, your transaction's over, right? Your role and responsibility has shifted a little bit. You've got some more time now, and you've got a couple bucks, obviously. Like, what are you doing? Where do you go from here? What are you doing, right? You don't have to be at work as much as you did from before. Your people empowered. They're set up with how you set them up with all the management incentives and so on and so forth. What does this all look like for you?
Well, I'm probably working about the same amount as I used to work before, but the thing was I didn't really work a whole lot before. So I'm still working about the same amount. It's usually I'm here motivating people, talking to people, taking phone calls, because for one, I enjoy being around them. For two, we have really great partners and we want to make sure that they succeed, that we all succeed together. But really going through, as I was going through the transaction, and I was considering, okay, well, I went from being a technician that had no business experience, and then jumping into business, and then realizing, oh shit, I don't know anything about business, to now getting ready to get out of business. And now I'm, I guess, considered a high net worth individual, right? We had a great transaction. I don't know if I'm really qualified to be that. I mean, what does that mean? Well, yeah, I earned all the money, so it's mine. And but what do I do with it? And so a lot of time has been spent on just basically upgrading a lot of things in life. And I'm not talking about cars or homes or anything like that, which I think if people do that, I think it's great. Fortunately, I had been fortunate for the past few years, so I kind of have all that stuff covered, like I'm pretty good there. But things like setting up estate planning, trust planning for kids, future generations, making sure that that is locked down really well, right? Making sure that, financial advisors, and not just, giving a guy some money and telling him, hey, go invest it, but, really learning about all of the things that, we could do from financial side, also to a charitable side, making sure that we're, taking care of, different causes and needs that, need our help, to even upgrading things like healthcare. Right. I mean, so, making sure that my wife and kids have the best healthcare that they could possibly have. And it's a funny thing, because you could think, well, can't anyone go and get a doctor? And it's true. Yeah, sure. Yeah, you can go find a doctor. That's great. But there are certain doctors that you may want to have access to. So gaining access to, really the best things that you could possibly gain access to. That's what I've been spending a lot of time doing, not a lot of time that I wouldn't already have available, but that's one of my core focuses, is making sure that the finances are secure, that our children are secure, and their children are secure, and hopefully their children are also secure. Learning about raising kids with money, just what are they going to act like? Are they going to be jerks and animals, or are they going to really kind of understand what they have, and be respectful and grateful for those opportunities? Because I worked hard, and my wife worked hard. That doesn't mean that they have to go through the exact same thing. They just have to understand it so that they can do something beneficial for them, their children, their community, and, all their friends and stuff like that. Right. So yeah, spending a lot of time just upgrading things in life that are important.
Nice. Plus, continuing your education in the business world.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yep.
Learning about different things, networking with, other people that are, doing well. And not just because I want to be part of a cool club, but, really just wanting to make sure that, just like when I joined SNA, it's the same thing, just, making sure that I'm talking to people and, hopefully being inspired and learning concepts and not taking every single concept like, oh yeah, this guy said it, so it must be true. But still that same thought process of, okay, I heard this concept, sounds pretty good. Let me do some quick diligence on it. And okay, let's roll it out, because it has to be that way.
Yeah, your ability to take action. I mean, it's ridiculously impressive, right? Okay,
Thanks.
this makes sense. Let's implement, let's move forward. So it's very cool to see that you're doing the same thing. Like, you haven't changed, right? The money hasn't changed you. Hey,
Right.
I attacked my business this way. Now I'm going to attack I've got my business, but now I have my investment, my portfolio, all the other stuff that I want to do. I want to attack it that way too.
Yeah.
That's interesting. And you're young. How old are you again?
So I'm 47. I know I only look like I'm 30, but yeah,
Right, you're young. So you think about it. A lot of folks when they get into the trades, the concept was from decades ago, this is what I'm going to do forever. Right.
Yeah.
This is my life. This is what I'm going to wind up doing. And obviously you put something together, which affords you at 47 and you're in good health and in good shape, right, with a young family, to really explore a lot of what this world has to offer on a different level. Again, congratulations. It's so neat to see. And by the way, you should have people call you and ask about the stuff that you're doing post-transaction if they want to get in depth with you. Right. Enough people through the Service Roundtable, Service Nation Alliance know you. And that comes up a lot. What does my life look like post-transaction? For those that have hobbies and things, obviously they're able to expand on them. You not only did that, but you started bringing some new things and new concepts into your life to kind of keep you on the learning wheel. So it's really, really pretty amazing. I want to talk about something, and I'm sure everybody wants to hear about this. Again, not the specifics of the transaction, but you had some decisions to make during the transaction, right? It was emotional, not too crazy, but listen, they're all emotional to the extent that you allow yourself to ride up and down on the waves that ultimately culminated in something that was very successful for you. I'd love you to expand or explore that, talk a little bit about that. Everybody gets this wrong idea of what a transaction looks like. It's a process. When you became my client, we didn't have your business for sale the next day. I wasn't cramming 60 million calls down your throat with all these buyers that want to have conversations with you. It's a buildup. It's almost like working out, right? It's a little bit every day to the point where once it really starts to get going, okay, you've already, you're in shape. You're in deal shape to be able to make something happen. But I'll let you talk about it. Better coming from you than from me, anyhow.
Yeah, there's a lot to consider, obviously, when you've built up your business. How much money you're making now, there's a financial side, right? And how much money you're going to come out with the other side, and what are you going to do and how are you going to live? There's also a little bit of a loss of identity. You've been this business owner for a while, kind of the boss, right? Which I haven't really ever felt like that, but I know a lot of people do, and that's okay. That's certain people really relate to that, but you're no longer that. And what are you really in your business for? Is it just to be the boss? I don't think most people are in business just to be the boss, right? There's different reasons. So you have to kind of consider what's your reason for being in business and what's your reason for selling and what do you really want out of life? And if you can kind of figure that thing out, then you can really decide a transaction's really right for me and my family, or really wrong for me and my family. And once you've decided that, then okay, now you have to, once again, implement that. You have to get after it and make it happen. For me, meeting you and getting to know you over the past couple of years has been interesting, and even your team, right? Because this is such a almost like a personal thing, where I'm over here and I've worked real hard, and now I have you who's a professional. And I have to trust in you. And at the same time, it's really hard to trust someone to just sort of take the reins and go with it. And so there was a lot of actually getting to know you and your team, and then realizing after a while, it's not that I'm paranoid, but I can't say that I just give everyone my full trust. Getting to know you and your team, and then realizing, wait a minute, so they really do have my back. They've been there every single time. They are answering all of my questions, but they're answering them in a sincere way and not in a leading way. Not so much like a realtor trying to sell a house and just get it off the market. Let's move on to the next thing. Of course, it's a sale and there's a process and all of that, but at the same time, it never felt like, and I'm sure that it never was, just a transaction to get off the table. There was actual real thought put into the groups that we were meeting with, you guys knowing what I wanted for myself and for my team. My team is especially important. And so there was a lot of consideration there, and I didn't get put in front of, a lot of people that, wanted to cut my throat and leave my team dead and let's cut all the corners. For one, we were one of the most efficient companies in the United States.
Yep.
One of the most efficient residential air conditioning and plumbing companies in the United States. Again, by numbers. That's not my ego talking. It's just a fact. And so a lot of people would have been interested in acquiring us, but you all sort of filtered through a lot of that and made sure that we were seeing the right people. And, when we put our information out August of 2022, Ryan, who's on your team, he calls me up and he said, yeah, so we have like 70 people that want to talk to you. This is like the second day. The second day, we have like 70 people that want to talk to you. I'm like, what? I don't know if I have time for all that. And he says, well, I haven't told them, what you necessarily want. No exact figures, but it was just pretty substantial amount, and I said, well, yeah, let him know. And he says, okay, great. He's like, almost all of them are going to drop out, which is great. Not all of them dropped out. There were still a whole bunch left. But the main thing was we didn't want to waste a lot of our time. We don't want to waste other people's time. So it made things very easy. It was a turnkey situation for me, from really diving into our numbers, making sure that they're all accurate. Leona was amazing with that. To you, making sure that I wasn't going crazy. That was great. To Ryan, making sure that all the meetings took place right on time and that, everybody was kind of understanding. There was definitely a sense of, okay, I'm in the right hands and this isn't actually so bad. Everything was the way that it should be.
Well, that's part of the process. And again, it takes time, right? It's not like, hey, we've got your stuff in on Friday, you're getting slammed with everything on Monday. By Wednesday, I need you to make a financial decision for the rest of your life. There is a time horizon this goes over. Kind of one of the reasons why I like it is, like you said, there's a relationship that gets developed. We get to understand you, you get to understand us, and over that time, nothing really comes out of left field, and nobody's saying you have to make a decision yesterday and be done in 30 seconds. And oh my God, we need to move on. So with that being said, it gives you time to be able to, every time something comes up, take a step back, breathe for a moment, get clear on your decision and move forward. I think what made your transaction so enjoyable, obviously, was your clarity on what you wanted. Right now, not everybody has to be clear. Listen, when we first spoke to where things ended up at, it was almost night and day. But the clarity was that you wanted to explore to see where this was at, right? My conversations with everybody when I talk to them is, I'm not asking you to be my client. Let's just give you an idea where things are at so you can make the best decisions for yourself and your family. You look at where things are at. Listen, when you were doing your deal, I want to say multiples will probably still, maybe moving up, starting to flatten out. They flatten out a little bit now. Right. And they might take a step back as interest rates start to move and the number of buyers, the market gets a little bit interesting with the consumer credit crunch that's being expected on what may happen in the horizon. But at the end of the day, multiples are still at incredibly high rates, right? The market is what it's going to wind up being. Anybody that's contemplating a transaction still should give me a call and let's have a conversation about it, or even call you. Don't even hear it from me. Let them call you. Nothing. Service Roundtable and Service Nation Alliance, they've got you on speed dial, I'm sure, anyhow. And I know how generous you are with your time. You know what I mean? To be able to have those conversations and let them ask you some of those detailed questions. But the best transactions are the ones that work. Not only, they got to be great for you. If it doesn't work for you, it doesn't work for us. Well,
yeah, they should text me. I mean, text me first, and then let's have a chat, because there's a lot to consider. I mean, I'm someone that actually went through it, so, my number's 702-499-3473. Just shoot me a text and then I'll shoot you a text back and we'll talk about it, because there's a lot to consider, and when I first started, along the path, I guess, of getting ready to potentially sell, I had so many questions, but I also didn't even know what questions to ask.
Right.
It's like you only know what you know, and there's a whole bunch of things that I didn't even know. And so like to be prepared, for a transaction, you want to make sure that you have, your numbers set up to where at least someone can decipher them. I mean, some guys out there don't even have their numbers or books straight at all. Our books were very clear and, easy to get through. But at least get them to the point where someone can decipher them, right? Make sure that who's on your team and what value they are. Make sure that all your insurances and all of your taxes are paid, all these things. So, I mean, there's just so many different things. And that's just like a vague thing, or just a general thing that I'm saying. But I mean, I'm happy to get into specifics and, at least not tell someone what to do, because it doesn't really matter to me. But overall, I want to see people, just like I said earlier, I want to see people succeed. It's really important to me. If someone can succeed, I think that's great. HVAC and plumbing industry is a great industry with some really great people. And, they probably don't really know what to do. They probably don't really know what to think or how to go about doing certain things. And it's a lot easier than most people think.
Or all the misinformation that's out there. So I appreciate the fact that you offered up your phone number and you offered for people to call. I read through them the same way you do. Listen, I'm part of all the groups as well. And some of the stuff that I see written and talked about just, makes my skin crawl. And I'm like, ooh, this is wrong information. These multiples aren't where you really think they are. This isn't really how these things are determined. And my fear is that people are trying to get a rough idea of what their business is on the wrong information. So they get either a false sense of where they're at, right? And then they're deflated when the reality sets in, or they're so far below where they're at, they have this goal where they want to get to, and they may already be there. I've had so many of those conversations where folks don't really know what the multiple is, don't really know what their EBIT is based upon their business mix, so on, all the factors that go in, and I get off this call and have this conversation. They're like, oh my God, I had no idea, and they're like scratching their head. Like I want everybody to know where they're at. It makes it easier for business decisions,
So I've seen firsthand both sides of the spectrum, from guys that did really well with their transaction. They're super happy. They've figured it out. It's not like they are going off into the horizon, like they've retired. They're just really successful, happy, have found new time, whatever it is that they want to do, they can do. Some of them want to continue working. Some of them don't. In my case, I love working. So that's why I'm doing it. All the way to people that have just had their companies basically stolen from them, like straight up stolen from them. And that is not something that sits well with me, right? I can only imagine what would have happened if I had my company stolen from me. How I would feel, how my family would feel, this hard work, this lost opportunity, all of this. And that's crazy to me, right? So just
I know people, people, I've heard the stories. Yeah. The only way that you can ensure that your business is not getting stolen from you is because you got multiple offers. How else are you supposed to know?
Multiple offers, you've got some good guidance, you understand the situation, you've called up people that or called up people that did it, checking how they're feeling, checking why they feel that way. I have a lot of friends that have done this. And so I had a chance to just call them up. Hey, what's up, man? What
you knew a lot of guys that we did deals for that you were able to.
I think
right.
probably all of them.
Right. So where I'm going with it is, listen, you got to be represented. That goes without saying. Here's my little 30-second. Okay. But you got to be represented. You have to have multiple offers. If you don't get those offers, you don't know what your true fair market value is. It's somebody telling you, hey, here's where you're at. Well, if you got 5 different people that want to partner up with you, right, and they're all coming in somewhere around the same ballpark, you got an idea, okay, right? If you got guys that are scattered all over the place, there's some misinformation or something going on. The problem is, as I'm from going through this now, how time intensive it truly is. What I always find amazing is, and I don't need to be too long-winded here. I'll talk to somebody, they're like, I'm getting it done on my own. I'm being told that with the information I gave the buyer, we can have our deal done in 30 days. I don't even know what to say. I'm speechless. You think that something you built up over all these years is going to be done, signed, sealed, delivered in 30 days, diligence done, what have you. There is no way, unless they've looked at your numbers, said this person does not know what they're doing, and we can go ahead and get a steal here. And I don't think that's why you're in business, is to get your business stolen, just like you said.
So one of our things with our company is we're extremely organized.
Yes,
You
you
know,
are.
our numbers are organized, our managers are organized, our managers can get information just like that all day long.
Yep.
And it was still difficult, going through the transaction. It's just, there's sort of a lot coming, right? It's difficult in the sense of there's a lot of info. It's like when you buy a house, they're constantly asking for information, right? So imagine if you decided to buy a whole block, right? There's just so much information that you'd have to process. There's just processing of information. It's, even if you are disorganized, you're going to get through it, but just know that it's challenging and it takes a certain amount of time. And there's always asks on information, because here's the thing. If I wanted to buy your business, Brian, if you were selling your business and I wanted to buy your business and I'm a buyer, I'm going to hear what you have to say. I'm going to do a little bit of research, but don't I have to confirm and verify everything that you're telling me just to make sure that I'm buying something? And don't you, as a seller, if you're a legitimate seller, feel or understand that I do need to do all of that in order for me to buy your business, right? I can't just expect someone to just come in and just take my word for it. That's crazy. That's just not really how business works. And especially the amounts of money that are coming in to buy the business, I can't really expect someone to just take my word for it. You know what? And I'm fine with them asking me some questions that almost sound crazy 5 times in a row.
Right.
It's okay, because I understand that they're trying to make sure that they're safe. No different than I'm trying to make sure that I'm safe. Right. And if we're both just being safe and we're both legitimate, then what's the problem? There is no problem. I've heard some guys that get ready to start, or either they're in the middle of getting all this information. They say, I can't do this anymore. I'm not doing this anymore. Like, what did you think? Did you think it was just going to be a walk in the park? It's not impossible. And it's not even, overly strenuous, but there is a process to it. So you just roll up your sleeves, get some people to hopefully help. If you have some people on your team or a spouse or someone that you trust, get all that information together and just make it happen.
Correct. You don't have to do it once.
Yeah.
If it's done right, the process is a one-time thing, and then you're off doing whatever it is you want to do. Right.
Yeah.
Now you're on the other side of it. Right. Smile on your face.
Mm-hmm.
Not, by the way, you're not a different person. You're the same exact person, same exact, your speech rhythm is the same, everything. You haven't gotten crazy. I don't see big gold medallions around your neck.
Oh, no, I'm just kidding. No.
So here's my 2 wrap-up questions. You ready? Number 1, who's going to the Super Bowl?
I'm a Chiefs fan. I mean, Buffalo and Cincinnati look tough. Obviously, the Eagles are tough. San Francisco is pretty tough. I don't know. I'm gonna go with the Chiefs and the Niners. I feel it'll either be the Chiefs and the Niners, or like Buffalo and the Eagles. Something like that.
Feels like we got some of the better teams that are in the final grouping this year. Minus
They're
Giants,
pretty tough.
But we'll see what happens with them anyhow. Last one is, in everything that we discussed, and again, appreciate you making yourself available for anybody that wants to give you a call.
Yeah.
Anything else that you want to add on to what we've gone over for today?
No, again, it's such a personal decision, but I do think that if it's a concept that you're interested in, start to learn it right now. Really get into it. It's funny when you mentioned that everybody's trying to figure out what the value of their business is by looking online and kind of piecemealing together what different people are saying, when they can easily just call you up and start to find out. I mean, what's the problem? It's free. At least they start to get an idea, and at the same time, there can be a plan put together to, so my initial conservative valuation, I mean, we tripled that. More than tripled that from 2021 to, what we just transacted in November of 2022. From that time to, and I'm not saying that's typical, but, there's a plan, and that plan can be discussed. And sometimes it's not realistic, but, it just depends. Again, it just depends, but at least you get a baseline understanding.
Agreed. And what's going to happen this year for me, which is no different than any other year, I love what you said, and I hope that everybody heard what you said. It is January. This will probably air in February, right? Anybody who's contemplating a transaction and wants to do anything, if there's ever a time to call me, it's now. What's going to wind up happening is I'm going to get calls in June with people that want to go to market right then and there. And we're going to smack into the back half of the year, right? When everybody's scrambling. It's so much easier when you are proactive with this instead of reactive with this, which is what you were. And even being proactive like you were, there were still some pinch points of stuff that needed to be to go through. But that's my only piece is be proactive. Nobody's asking to sell anything today, but you got to have the information to make the best decision for you. That's it.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, you are incredible as always. Thank you very much for your time. I know that I had to carve out a chunk of it out of your very busy day today.
Yeah. Thanks, Brian, man. It's good to see you. And thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Of course. I look forward to seeing you soon.